All right, this time for real. This time for real. This time. All right, we're in it. Um, I'd like to see the live pop up on my own little preview bit, but it looks like it's working on the vertical version, so I can only imagine that the horizontal version is just a bit behind. I'm gonna try hitting the reset on my bit here. I don't know why it wouldn't be. Okay, hey, we got our double screen. I really wish that this was working over here, but might not be. It looks like my vertical version is unfortunately not cropped and designed how I like actually set it up here. But you know what? Growing pains. That's what it is. It's just growing pains. What matters is that we're here. We're visible. We really out here. I'm going to close a few tabs, and then we're going to jump right into the swing of things here. I've got chat readily available and open. So just throw anything in that you guys are curious about, want to hear my thoughts on, want to debate me about, all that good stuff. All that good stuff. If anybody is in here and knows me, knows what's going on, hop in, let me know. It says excellent quality concurrent viewers is a dash mark. Not exactly promising, but we will get busy here in a moment. Just forgive me. We'll make that a separate tab, but I don't need that right now. We're gonna close all my groks, and then we'll have this. I guess we'll have this going on. Let's see. Let me, I guess, go on my own little test here. We'll see how this is working. And then on YouTube. And then we'll have this, I guess. We'll have this going on. Let's see. Let me, I guess, go on my own little... There we go. Okay, I guess we're in business. So I'm going to make a little promotional post here. I'm going to download that. Going to post it on Instagram. Hopefully that should drive some traffic. And then we're going to do it's too loud. Going to do the same thing here on TikTok. There we go. All right. So I have posted on multiple platforms. Let's give a moment for people to trickle in, hopefully. Got a little bit of love on here, so we'll see who pulls through. Hello. This isn't exactly cropped like how I wanted things to be, but like I was saying earlier, that's just growing pains. It's just the price of freedom. There's a freedom comes at a price. Sometimes it looks like B-2 bombers pounding sand, and you know what? Sometimes it looks like this. So we'll start now. We'll go with BBC. We'll go with BBC. This is what we're looking at. So I got my tiny little face cam up there. What does it look like on? Oh, you guys see all that. I'm curious, but I kind of want to see it. It's going to press, and I'm going to go over, and I'm going to take a look. Just very curious. Oh, dude, it crops my face out? Oh, that's so lame. Okay. Whatever. It is what it is. So it looks like successfully in the strikes that we did on Iran today, we got Ayatollah Ali Khamenei dead. This is not necessarily fact, I guess, but the Israelis are saying it, the U.S. is saying it, and I don't hear a lot of discourse refuting that. So I'm going to go ahead and probably say that it's true. I had my friends texting me saying, yo, it looks like the Ayatollah is dead. Born in the northeastern city of Mashhad in 1939, the son of a religious scholar, Ali Khamenei joined the religious opposition movement in 1962. After the revolution, Khamenei became deputy defense minister and helped organize the IRGC, and he's had a firm grip on power ever since. This guy's been around as long as I'm alive, and great national celebration to come soon. This is probably the guy we're going to try to install. It might end up becoming like a Maria Machado situation where we try to install our own little Western groomed goon, and the people of the country don't seem to see it the way that we do. We'll see if we actually install him, or if he ends up like Maria Machado, where just like Andy, we don't want to play with you anymore and let them go to the side. But hello. Who do we got in here? Last time I had like a good solid like 5-6 folks in here. And what really helps is if you throw things in the comments, throw things in chat. I get to respond. It's like a little ping pong game, right? It bounces one way, bounces back. I return a volley. You guys hit it back. That's the ideal setup right here, right now. But that's what we're looking at. Let me zoom in a little bit. Let me go on X and see what the discourse is, what the people are saying. People are retweeting, you can't leave all tasks to your hashtag wife and then criticize her, even if she's a scientist / politician, yet interacting within the family. She's a hashtag flower. Guys, this is the man that we killed. He just liked shit posting on his main on Twitter. This is the guy that we vanquished. I mean, in all seriousness, I don't think anybody's saying that this guy's like, a heavenly godly man. He's the leader of a major country, and he's got all sorts of human rights stains on his record, as anybody does. But I mean, he was tweeting cute little stuff like that. Okay, it's an interesting debate. Only 2 ways to deal with the situation: do nothing or blow it all up and start it all over again. You got to be all in either way. Trump clearly took the second one. Hope it works. Rob, you'll be singing our tune in a little bit. I know you. This guy's an Indiana commentator, political commentator. He knows ball, but there's no way that this is just going to be up. We did the strikes, and now the Iranian people have made a Western liberal democracy in their country, and everything's going to be great. Like, it's going to require more and more U.S. intervention. Israel does not have the ability or will to deal with all of this fallout on their own. There's going to be more U.S. troops, more U.S. resources involved. We're already burning like hundreds of millions of dollars a day keeping 2 carrier strike groups right on the Persian Gulf. So you're going to get people who are more independently minded, I promise you, over the next few days, weeks, and months, just interacting with the reality that we've created, right? They're not pro Iran, they're not pro regime, they're not anything. They have eyes and ears and a working brain, and they're going to see that this is going to end like in a complete disaster. I don't know if the chat is just not popping up or if y'all ain't blessing me in there. But let's start blessing the chat with a little bit of activity. What do you guys say about that? Let's start blessing the chat with a little bit of activity. What are we seeing about that? Confirmed dead from Fox News. I didn't know confirmation was there, but I guess confirmation is all relative. But good afternoon, everybody. Ooh, these look like some real tough picks out of Haifa and Tel Aviv, Israel. Casualty and huge booms in Jerusalem. Looks like some kind of large missile landed here within this city block. That's obviously pretty mad blood. And very grainy picture. Okay. Man, pray for... this is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Any ball knowers in here? Any ball knowers? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare. This was Modern Warfare first. Oh, well, Jesse Brown. I do like... Yeah, I do like Jesse Brown. This is data center stuff, but that's not what we're focused on right now. Right now, we're focused on Dan Dockich. Everybody, Dan Dockich, the embarrassment. It's the opposite of the pride of Indiana, the embarrassment of Indiana. Dude will cuck to Trump no matter what. He's never seen a war he doesn't like unless it's run by a Democrat. But then the moment that Trump takes, Zelensky, he takes control of the Ukraine conflict. There's nothing he can do. It's out of his hands. What do you want to do? Russia's crazy. But when Biden's in office, he's just a warmonger. That's how these things work. Oh, I'm going to tell my friends, hop in the live, hop in the live, hop in the live. Yeah. Please start blessing this chat, folks. If you're in here, please start blessing my chat. Start throwing your reactions, start throwing your takes, start throwing everything you've got out here. I want to talk to you guys. Not seeing anything in here right now. I don't want to be one of my own concurrent viewers. But yeah, let's see what we got going through here. Iranian strike hits Dubai International Airport, and I guess this is a good. I guess it's a good moment to talk about why we're seeing these bombing strikes happen. Otherwise, I would. Can you know? Yeah. Why is Iran striking the Dubai International Airport? I also saw missile strikes land in Bahrain, missile strikes land in Saudi Arabia. The reason why this is happening, I'm not justifying or saying what's right or good in this world, but the reason why you're seeing this is that a lot of these very missile strikes that came from Israel, but then more importantly from the U.S., they were launched from our military bases in Bahrain, in Qatar, in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, and Dubai is a part of the UAE. Iran sees that as kind of endorsement of this American act of war, which isn't an act of war. If you are actively trying to kill the head of state and the military leadership in the capital of Iran, that's an act of war. And they see these other Arab partners as being kind of betrayers of the pan-Arab anti-Western imperialism front. And they see them, these people, like in Dubai and the UAE, the Emirate states, they've got oil and they want to be a part of the Western system. That's why they've normalized relations with Israel. But beyond normalizing relations with Israel, they've also accepted U.S. military bases and accept that the U.S. is going to do these incredibly aggressive, antagonistic, and provocative moves and acts of war against them. Iran is trying to make these regional countries feel the pain. They are trying to say, hey, the price of teaming up with America is not just the free flow of oil. It also comes with this. And I'm not saying that that's good. I'm not saying that when you get beaten, you go down kicking and screaming, dragging everybody down with you. But that's why we're seeing this. Am I mistaken, or is Ayatollah more of a religious leader rather than a political figure? It's my understanding that it's both. It really is both. Iran does have a political system that is not just simply a one-man dictator. It's more complicated than that. There are some trappings of democracy where people do go and vote for leaders like the current president of Iran or prime minister of Iran. But those candidates have been pre-selected by that religious core. And so that religious core does represent the political leadership of Iran. However, they don't have this sole, complete domination of the system. There are other institutions that have inputs, and there are ways that the people of Iran do get to make their input in the elections. With that said, as I mentioned, the candidates, you're never going to see a Bernie Sanders or a Thomas Massie on that, presidential. What I mean is like somebody subversive to the regime. They're going to make sure that anybody who's on that ballot is going to largely be following the policy that the Ayatollah and the religious leadership like. I'm no expert on Iranian politics, mind you, but I listen to Breaking Points. I watch Drop Site. I read Drop Site News. Ryan Grimm keeps me abreast of these things, and I've got other sources as well that I look at. I'd like to think I've got a nuanced view of all of this, but I'm no sort of expert, and I would never claim to be. Doesn't look like we're seeing a massive pro-government crowd chants death to America. Yeah, I was saying this to a friend earlier that, the Iranian regime is extremely unpopular in Iran. And that's true. People point to that, especially people with ulterior motives that want to see regime change in Iran. But the one thing that keeps them in power, the reason why they still have some degree of legitimacy in the eyes of the Iranian people, is because they are the Ayatollah and their regime are trusted sort of thorns in the side of U.S. imperialism. And it's strikes like this that make these people rally together against Israel and this common external enemy. There's all sorts of dissent, all sorts of factions within the country that loathe the supreme leader and the Ayatollah's regime. But the one thing that all of those institutions seem to agree on is that the U.S. and Israel are a force of evil and pain in their region of the world. And so actions like this are not going to undermine the idea that the U.S. is an agent of pain. You know what I mean? This is, I really feel like, is only going to empower the Iranian regime domestically. I don't mean that they're not weakened. They're obviously incredibly weakened, and it's uncertain where this is going to go. But I also think it's really going to entrench the more radical voices that say that we have to treat the U.S. They can't be. We can't make a peace deal. We have to rush to a nuke. We have to be more militant. Those are the kind of voices that are going to rise out of this, because everyone else that was trying to take a more cautious, peaceful route, they've either been murdered or they've been embarrassed and proven to be idiots. Because no matter how much we try to give, this is the thought in Iran, no matter how many chances we give America to make peace, no matter how many times you try to make a deal with them, they're still just going to bomb us and murder our political leadership. So if that's the message we want to send, it was sent. And I think if you're Israel or you're the top levels of U.S. policymaking, like, that is the point. Peace was never the point. Hello. I mean, I'm not really seeing who else has hopped in here. I'm getting 4 views. I don't know how many concurrent viewers I'm seeing. Doesn't look like too many. It really doesn't look like too many. But thank you, Sunny D, for popping in here and giving me a question. I'd like more. I'd like some sort of I'd like some engagement. Let's get some more. Sunny D. I think I might be the other viewer in here, so that's not too it's not too helpful. But how are we doing? I mean, how are we grappling with all this information? It's pretty bleak. It's pretty dark, and it's really a lot to chew on. What else do we have in here? Please throw some stuff my way, guys. Please, please, please. And how's my audio levels? Like, is anything peaking weird? Is anything, is there any weird stuff going on? All right, well. Let's look up Dubai and see what's going on in Dubai right now. Wall Street Journal article here. Really notice how my face lights up when I turn to a really look at X, look at my face cam X versus Wall Street Journal. Just lights me up. Okay, well, I'm gonna paywall this. This is a real good hack, guys. You can't quite see my face cam here, so I'm going to drag it. I'm going to drag it down for a moment so you guys get to see. We're going to go paywall bypass. And we're going to hit this top result, paste that Wall Street Journal article in there. And we're going to click until it gives us an option. Bang, right there. Now, I do not need to pay for Wall Street Journal subscription. And you never have to. So it looks like Dubai, for the most part of Saturday, tourists and residents relaxed on Dubai's glitzy Palm, whatever that is, tanning on the man-made beaches, throwing birthday parties for children. But after dusk on Saturday, Iranian explosives pierced the lucrative bubble. Missiles and drones rained down in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and the UAE, targeting bases and other strategic sites and scattering debris from the interceptor missiles. Yeah, the business-friendly relationship or reputation of Gulf countries that is the bit that I was trying to talk about earlier when I was saying that this is why Iran is striking all of these other countries nearby, is because they are trying to mess up the money. The US and Israel and Europe, they've got a really good system going on where all of these religious monarchies will play ball, sell the oil, participate in our system, and in exchange, they get U.S. defense. They get military bases, and they don't have to worry about other people invading them within their own country. But Iran feels like they've got nothing left to lose because we've given them nothing else to lose. So they're trying to make other countries around feel the pain. Does Iran have any allies that would side with them, or is their main source of leverage the Strait of Hormuz? Yeah. Thank you, Ryan, for that lovely question. If you're who I think you are, I'm sorry that I missed you on Friday. I think Iran's main source of leverage is the Strait of Hormuz. If we're not all familiar, let's take a little trip on Google Maps. This is why I'd really... Ooh, you're seeing Bloomington. I need to be careful about that for future lives. That is a good little piece of information to know now. But let's take this little trip over to the Strait of Hormuz. That's the Strait of Hormuz right here. So, when you've got oil countries like the United Arab Emirates right here, Qatar, you've got Bahrain right here, and you've got Saudi Arabia right here, you've got Kuwait, you've got Iraq, all of these countries right here in this region, for the most part, their oil goes through one of two places. It goes into the Red Sea here, through the Suez Canal to get out and towards the Mediterranean right here. Or that oil, especially if it's coming from Iran or if it's coming from Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, or the UAE, it needs to get on big old tanker ships and go through this little stretch of water. That's called the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has a lot of military installations around here, as do we. Where's Djibouti? Djibouti's somewhere down here. And is that Djibouti? I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a very heavily armed area, and Iran has the ability, when I think they've said this, to completely shut down the Strait of Hormuz and make it so no oil from Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, at least on their eastern coast, or Kuwait, can get to markets. They can't get to India. They can't get to China. They can't get to anything that's in the Indian Ocean and beyond because they've struck it down. So obviously it sounds like, Ryan, you know that little bit of information, but I think that's their main bit of leverage because Hamas in Gaza isn't really capable of causing much pain. I think Israel, at the same time as they were launching strikes on Iran, they launched strikes on the southern Lebanon and on Hezbollah. So they're obviously incapable of doing anything. I don't think the Houthis are at max capacity right now, but the Houthis are down here. They've got the port of Aden, the Aden International Airport. This area is a strong Houthi rebel stronghold, and they also have the ability, I think, here's Djibouti, to try to lock down this shipping lane as well, so that the only way that oil can go is through the Suez Canal here. And that is, I think, what they've already said. I think they're already doing that. Let's Google Strait of Hormuz and go to news. Oil and gas majors and traders suspect shipments via Hormuz as U.S. attacks Iran. Several tanker owners, oil majors, and trading houses have suspended crude oil. So it looks like even the threat of Iran doing strikes, hijacking, or sinking ships in the Strait of Hormuz has chilled oil companies from even bringing it through here. So yeah, that's the intended effect that Ryan was mentioning about the Strait of Hormuz. It looks like it's working. The threat of Iranian retaliation in the shipping lane has made these people like self-select to opt to not send anything through. And that's another bit of pain. That's another pain point that Iran has leverage over, as Ryan said. So yeah, I think that's definitely the main bit of leverage they've got. But they also have a whole bunch of missiles that they have been stockpiling for a rainy day. And I think that the administration in Iran doesn't think that there's going to be a rainier day than this one. And so if they're a cornered animal and they're going to get got no matter what, they're going to fight to the death. And that includes sending all of their missile output towards U.S. assets in the region, our military bases like here, like we have military bases everywhere. They're going to try to launch everything that they've got, and they know that that's probably going to cause a massive backlash from the U.S. But they're saying, so what? What else do we have to lose? What are you going to do? Topple the regime? Like, you're already doing it, so we might as well throw everything that we've got. So that's what we're seeing in all these other countries. That's what we're seeing at U.S. military bases, and all that kind of stuff. Is anyone joining this live? I think Ryan's in here, buddy. Throw in something else, man. If you've got any other questions, any other comments, anything else to say, I would love and appreciate that. We're live right now. I'm taking a look. I'm not seeing what I'm liking to see. Do I have... I still got 2 concurrent viewers, so you guys are champs right now. But hop in. I mean, I'm still soliciting all sorts of commentary, all sorts of things to debate. If you guys saw my video today, I mean, was there anything in there that you thought would be interesting to discuss, ask me about, push back upon, anything of that and that sort of family of things? Man, I'm stumbling. Yeah, thermal tank owners, looks like they are blocking all sorts of trade shipments. Potential to unnerve international business operating in the Gulf. Like I was saying, that is the point of these strikes from the Iranian perspective, is to stop business. They want to mess up the money so that, there's pressure to say stop. This sort of posture towards Iran, this blatant war crimes, violation of international law, is not free. There's a cost to your money, and you're doing it in the name of trying to open shipping lanes. You're doing it in the name of trying to keep the whole international business system safe and secure. But actually, in doing that, you are going to further disrupt it than you would be otherwise. That's what Iran's trying to, make clear and to have happen. And I think, as we just looked in these articles, they're succeeding in doing that. It's nearly all of the U.S. bases in the Gulf in retaliation for the U.S. and Israeli strike, according to Arab officials. Several residential buildings in the capital of Bahrain. Yeah, dude, it's a bleak world out there, guys. It really is. It really is. Let's see here. Dubai gets goes. Oh yeah, I was already looking through that. So let's keep scrolling through X. Let's see. China. The U.S. is a war addict. Oh boy. Throughout its 240-year history, it's been at war for all but 16 years. The U.S. has over 800 overseas military bases in 80 countries and regions. The U.S. is a main cause of international disorder, global turbulence, and regional instability. Guys, this is where it pops off. Like, normally China is down to just like sit there, let it happen, like let us mess up on our own time and just watch it and wait to pounce. But I think this is them pouncing, right? They've long wanted to take over Taiwan, and this is kind of the moment where the U.S. has its pants down, and that's when it's allowed to walk in. Do you feel that whatever government comes out of this for Iran will be pro-Israel, or do you think the people of Iran can fight for a less authoritarian government that aligns with them? I really don't think that the latter is going to happen. And as I mentioned in my video today, the people in charge in the United States do not care about freedom or democracy, and they will do nothing to precipitate that outcome. In fact, they will actually probably do the opposite. The reason why democracies in Europe, but democracies outside of Europe, are kind of why they're even allowed to happen is because the political system will never produce something that undermines U.S. control. And it's the same domestically, right? Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, there are very meaningful differences in the foreign policy that be produced by those two presidents. But at the end of the day, like, you're not seeing Kamala Harris come out and say, we need to end sanctions on Iran, this kind of self-licking ice cream cone, endless war, and military-industrial complex stuff has to stop. You're never going to see her say that, because the system is okay if the Republican wins. It's okay if the Democrat wins. At the end of the day, the 90% of the administration will be identical, and the extra 10% is not going to meaningfully harm corporate profits. In Iran, I don't think that they have the same sort of confidence that a democratic system wouldn't produce a subversive regime to the U.S. The last time Iran had democracy, it produced a man named, oh my God. The last time Iran had democracy, it produced a man named, oh my God, it's going to come to my head. Oh, I don't have to try to find it. It's going to be Mohammad Mossadegh. Mohammad Mossadegh. Something like that. Yes. Produced this man, Mohammad Mossadegh. Mohammad Mossadegh just wanted Iranian oil to be for the people of Iran, and we couped him. Look at this, Operation Ajax. In March 1953, Secretary of State John Foster Dulles directed the CIA, which was headed by his younger brother, Allen Dulles. Right here, you can't quite see it, but Allen Dulles. Oh, yes, you can. To overthrow Mossadegh, because we needed the oil. Can I find it in here? They were trying to allege that Mossadegh was turning towards the Soviet Union, but even their own intelligence said that that's bullshit. It's not true. We overthrew the government in Iran. Yes, the GOAT, Mohammad Mossadegh. We overthrew their government because they were trying to nationalize their oil and have the profits go to benefit the people of Iran. And so we couped him and installed Reza Pahlavi, the father of the guy that we're grooming to go and replace the Ayatollah now. That's what happened the last time we trusted Iran with democracy. And we said, okay, well, you guys can have democracy, but you just can't choose that guy. You can't choose this philosophy. So I don't think we don't want democracy in Iran, because a real actual democracy would produce somebody like this. I know the last name is Dulles, bad sign. Dude, Allen Dulles, I'm reading a book right now called The Devil's Chessboard. I know I'm typoing, but it doesn't matter. The Devil's Chessboard, Allen Dulles, the CIA, and the Rise of America's Secret Government. This book is like Ball 101. Like, this is how you learn ball. This is how you understand how the system moves, how the shadow government operates. This book gives you an amazing insight into all the Nazis and the Nazi tactics that we imported from the falling Third Reich regime. We put the people who were in charge there of their, intelligence apparatus. Yes, exactly. We just implanted them into our own government. And it spends a lot of time in that book talking about a lot of different anecdotes in order to kind of flesh out how this works. But they spend a good portion of time in 1953 and 1952 planning the overthrow of Mohammad Mossadegh. So this is what happens when we trust Iran with democracy, is they put someone in power that is going to harm the profits of ExxonMobil, of BP at the time, because it was, British investments in British Petroleum that was in control of Iranian oil. We don't want democracy. I will have to pick up that book. You absolutely should. It is an amazing read, Ryan. I promise you. I'm still only 2/3 through the book. I've been taking the scenic route there, and thank you, Soren, for bringing it over. But I think what we actually want in this world in Iran is civil war, because it's like what happened. Yes, the Anglo-Iranian oil company that is now known as British Petroleum. Thank you. What we want, what the American system and the Western system broadly wants, is civil war in Iran, because you want them distracted and divided. You don't want them to be a strong nation, regardless of, what that strength is used for, what kind of policy they decide on. A strong Iran doesn't need the U.S. The strong Iran doesn't need a foreign kind of patron, if you will, in order to be stable. But if the country is distracted and divided and there's a bunch of warring factions, you can you can arm and fund every side of that civil war, and then once the victor comes through and rises to power, that victor knows that they owe you for that victory, and the moment that they try to stop doing what you want, you can undo that victory just as easily as you did it. And so Israel gets to act with impunity, even more so than they already are, without the threat of Iran striking them or making them feel any of the pain of their own foreign policy. And a democracy with the actual consent of the Iranian people following an agenda that the Iranian people endorse, that is not what these people want. That is a threat to Israel. That is a threat to our money, because they're trying to get dealt into the system, right? We don't give Saudi Arabia a democracy. We know that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's going to do whatever we want. He's not going to mess up the money. And his son's not going to mess up the money, just like his father didn't mess up the money. And the people in Saudi Arabia are cool with that, because they just get like luxury communism. They get to have these massive skyscrapers, luxury this, luxury that. We're going to build a frickin' rainforest in the middle of the desert. Like, look at this little palm tree neighborhood that we built out in the ocean. Like, you get to live a pretty luxurious life and get to travel anywhere you want into Europe or the U.S. if you are one of these Gulf states. It's a pretty nice gig. And so, like, do you really care if you don't get to vote? Like, what were you going to do? Vote for somebody who gets overthrown? Like, no. You trust the king. You trust the royal family, because you get free money from the government for your oil. And anybody else who would replace the top level of leadership, they're just going to get cooed. They're under the same constraints as the last guy. So, yeah. I mean, throw me some other questions, guys. I might need to go get a granola bar here in a second. I think I'm going to go do that. Throw your comments or your questions in the chat. I'll be right back for that. Sunny D, I'm going to get back to that. Give me 45 seconds. All right. Sunny D says, I may be underestimating them, but would Israel really risk receiving retaliatory damages just for resources and regime change? Yes. I don't really know how to approach that one. I mean, what their stated goal is regime change in Iran. Like, that's what they want. And they spearheaded this effort through the U.S. and themselves launched the first missiles. they absolutely want regime change and were able to forecast and did forecast exactly the sort of retaliatory strikes that they were going to get. And they decided to do it anyway. Because what they're going to do is you're going to see clips like this. You're going to see clips like this. You're going to go on X and you're going to go shelter. And you're going to see all sorts of videos. Or maybe I go shelter Israel. Sorry. Ugh. I'm going to go shelter Israel. And I'm going to see residents of Israel sheltering from a bomb attack. You're going to see all sorts of propaganda videos of people saying, okay, this isn't really proving my point very well. Stuff like this: children, men, women, old people, and this is from 2014 or June 14th. But that's sort of my point. That every time this happens, rhetorically, they're like, this is why we need Israel. This is why we need an Iron Dome. This is why America needs to give billions and billions of dollars to Israel, because we have to go into these shelters. Don't you know that we have bomb shelters in every neighborhood because Israel's constantly under attack by its aggressive neighbors. And that's why we need to spend all of this money and bomb them and get bombed more so that we can put out these videos of us needing these bomb shelters. Look at these little children crying in the basement of this bomb shelter. No child should have to grow up like this. This is why we need to overthrow Iran so that they can't bomb us anymore. It's a very, very cynical and messed up sort of logic, but that's exactly what the sort of thinking is. So they knew that they were getting these damages. That's why they've built these shelters. They were preparing for this. Israel knew the date of this attack, so they prepared the population. Like, this is just we've known that this was always going to be a part of the playbook. Yes, it's because it's just bigger than them. It's a broader Western alliance priority. The people of Israel aren't their priority. Exactly. And I mean, what was it with the hostages? Like, when October 7th first happened, the reaction I got was, well, there's a bunch of hostages in Gaza. At least that means that Israel won't completely level the place because they're going to be scared of leveling their own people. Maybe Israel won't starve the Gaza Strip because that means they're going to be starving their own people. But no, I mean, you even hear hostages come out and say that they're pretty sure some of their fellow hostages were deleted by American and Israeli bombs. So I think they're seen as useful assets, and they're not seen as it's quite cynical. I mean, on October 7th, I look at the pictures of all the burnt cars. Like, I'm gonna go October 7th burnt cars. Israel will tell you that they had hand grenades. Hamas had hand grenades and AK-47s. You cannot burn an entire parking lot full of cars with an AK-47 and or hand grenades. You can do it with a massive, machine-gunned helicopter that comes in and just completely unloads on the car parking lot. I don't know the exact number, but you had hundreds of Israelis die because the IDF put out basically a directive, the Hannibal directive, if you will, to kill every single Hamas fighter and to not let them take any hostages. It is an IDF directive. Is a controversial procedure used by the IDF to prevent the capture of Israeli soldiers by enemy forces. Described it in 2014, saying the kidnapping must be stopped by all means, even at the price of striking and harming our own forces. That is what this is. And there's some anger in Israel about it, because we know that a non-slim amount of the deaths on October 7th were because of the IDF and their own actions. And so, no, I don't. It on paper, it should be just like you say, Sunny D. Like, it should be a shocking thing, and it shouldn't make sense that the Israeli government would be okay with inviting, missiles and fury and damage onto their own country. But they are. They are totally okay with it because they know that they're going to survive it. America has 2 aircraft carrier fleets right outside their borders. And so we're going to try to do everything that we can to make sure that they're okay. And any damage or casualties that they take are ammo, rhetorically, to then justify even stronger actions. So that's really the sick and cynical psychology going on. Sorry. How many people got in here? Come on. Oh, I got 7 viewers. Oh my god. Hello. Mm. Sonny D, though, they wouldn't be doing this if they didn't have the U.S. You know what I mean? This is the Iron Dome could not have been built by Israel without the U.S. help and without U.S. taxpayers funding it. And the entire idea of the Iron Dome is, as you say in the last comment before this one, that risk, that receiving of retaliatory damages. The Iron Dome is there so that when Israel assassinates Iranian leaders in a third country, or they bomb the Iranian consulate in Damascus, when Iran is angry and strikes back, it is designed so that some of those missiles don't get through and they get shot down by the Iron Dome, and that the people there in Israel get to go, oh my God, our government did this wonderful thing to help protect the Israeli people, and they don't associate those aggressive Israeli actions like the bombing of an Iranian consulate. You're not allowed to bomb embassies of other countries like that. That is an act of war. But even in war, like, it's an embassy, it's a consulate, it's supposed to be a diplomatic center, and it's not a valid military target. The Israeli people don't go, oh my God, I can't believe my government did that, and then are creating consequences and pain for me. They don't need to feel the pain that is caused by the anger that their government's action causes, because all of those missiles are shot down by the Iron Dome, or the vast majority of them. And so you don't get pressure within Israel for the government to change their tactics, because they are insulated from the pain of their own actions, if that makes any sense. Do we have enough troops in the area that the Trump administration could decide to do a boots-on-the-ground invasion? I absolutely... The word... I should be louder. Okay, well, thank you for letting me know. I think that... I don't think that Trump is interested in a boots-on-the-ground invasion. I don't think that we're going to do a boots-on-the-ground invasion. I think the idea is that we want to make the conditions in Iran so miserable for the average person, and the kind of prospect of the state retaliation if you wanted to protest in the street and do a revolution or overthrow the government. We're trying to create the conditions for the Iranian people to do that themselves. And I don't think that that's going to work in the short term. And so we're going to have a super, super, super weak Iranian central government and a bunch of factions that are angry at it and also angry at the U.S. and Israel. And we're going to probably, if I had to guess, be sitting in that sort of stasis for a while, where the top commanders of the Iranian government are dead. The prime minister might be dead. The Ayatollah is probably dead. And there's some kind of leadership power struggle, but somebody gets into office. They don't have the same kind of, consolidation of power that the Ayatollah did before. And Iran will be weakened to the point where probably they're not a direct threat to Israel. If Israel decided to completely annex the West Bank, you're not going to have to worry about like a really concerted military response from Iran or from Hezbollah or from the Houthis or from Hamas, because they've already kind of cucked all of those other, proxy groups. But then also Iran doesn't have the resources barely has the resources and political ability to keep themselves in check. They're not going to have that ability to go and marshal it out to their proxies in order to help create that pain. So I absolutely do not think that Trump is even considering a boots on the ground invasion. What will probably look like is we're just going to keep bombing them and then going, did that work? Lifting the lid of the pot and going and checking on how bad the water's boiling. We're not going to, go and boil it ourselves, but we're going to keep checking. We're going to turn up the heat and keep checking. And that's what's going to create the kind of civil war that we want. Iraq, for the first few years, like Iraq had free and fair elections in like 2006 and 2007. You know what I mean? That wouldn't have happened if we just went in, captured Saddam like we did with Maduro, and then left. Like, it would get plunged into chaos. That's what happened after the American troops left, but we first tried to like set up a government and do nation building. And I think that that is the thing that Donald Trump in his public relations mind has solidified as like the number one thing that you can't do. That was the big mistake with Iraq. It wasn't probably invading in the first place. It wasn't all of this. It was the fact that we stayed and tried to do nation building. And the alternative to not nation building is just going in, destabilizing the place, and then just like letting them fight it out. And that ends up being the end result, because it's pretty freaking hard to come in as this country that just like, you know, destabilized a different country, to go in there and get the people to mess with you and make, you know, have the people buy into the system that you're trying to artificially impose. It's a really difficult ask. And I wouldn't blame Trump for saying that that's an ask that he's not willing to, you know, follow through on. But that's why you don't destabilize the place, you know, anyway. That's why you don't do it in the first place. So, yeah, I don't think there's any risk of a boots-on-the-ground invasion. I don't think we really have the troops for the boots-on-the-ground invasion. I think there was something like 100,000 American troops that were involved in the invasion of Iraq. That's not what we have in the region, and I don't think that we're going to do that. But from their perspective, like, they don't need to do that. Doing these strikes, decapitating the regime to the point where everybody's infighting, like, that's okay. And we're going to go and we're going to mow the lawn again in a few months. We're going to say, oh my God, this new regime that took power, these new people in power that replaced the Ayatollah, they're even more radical than the last. They're even more anti-West. They hate America even more. They chant death to America even harder. That's what we're going to start hearing. And then we're going to bomb them and topple them, or Israel's going to have like their implanted Mossad agents go explode a pipe bomb in somebody's car, and it's going to kill their kids, and no one's going to be like, oh my God, that's an act of terrorism. It's going to be righteous. It's going to be based, and it's just going to repeat itself all over again. But what else are we wondering about, guys? Throw some shit in there. Throw some shit in there. What are we seeing? What are we thinking? What are we saying? This China stuff that I was showing is wild. Oh, well, yeah, it's a no-no word right there. He's dead. World War's powers resolution do anything here? I mean, on paper, yes. On paper, yes. For everyone who doesn't know, let's go and look it up. The War Powers Act. Let's get the full context going in here. So a War Powers Resolution, also known as the War Powers Resolution of 1973 or War Powers Act, is a federal law intended to check the U.S. president's power to commit armed conflict without the consent of Congress. So, take yourself back. Theoanthropic stuff has made me pretty feel dinner. We'll get back to that, Ethan Fulkerson. So, if you remember in the Constitution, right, you got Article 1, which is all about Congress. Ooh, do I have that? Ooh, God, I cannot get that wrong. You have Article 1 of the Constitution that's all about Congress. Yes, I got it. You can't really see it right now, but I got it right. Article 1 of the Constitution is about Congress. And it goes through and it lays out what is in Congress's purview, what is not in Congress's purview. It's a classic separation of powers. It's the checks and balances, all that sort of thing. What is in the power of Congress is, among other things, the power of the purse. So that's why these tariffs were ruled unconstitutional, is that except in, very limited emergency cases, like we have the IEPA Act, the International Emergency Tariff, Protection, whatever IEPA stands for. We've got the ability to raise taxes. We have the ability to decide how those taxes are spent. And Congress also has the ability to declare war. The president cannot declare war unilaterally. It is Congress that has the ability to do that. However, in Article 2 of the Constitution that goes through what the president does, what the president is, what the president does not do, and what the president isn't. That makes the president the commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces. So Congress declares war, but Congress doesn't say, okay, we want 200,000 troops to be deployed to the Persian Gulf and we want 2 carrier strike groups. They don't do that. That is the president's job. The president is the commander-in-chief, the top general, the guy who bosses around all the generals. And so what happens around 1973 and before it is that President Nixon, President Kennedy a little bit before him, but like not really with Kennedy, but Kennedy, with Eisenhower before him, with Johnson after Kennedy, with Nixon after Johnson, all of these guys were fighting in Vietnam, in Southeast Asia, without a formal declaration of war. Let me Google, was the Korean War, last time U.S. declared war, I believe, was the Korean War. No, it was Bulgaria, Romania. Okay, well then I don't really know what undeclared, was it Korea? Was it Korea? Was that a war powers resolution? Former declarations of war, United States. These declarations are issued through congressional resolutions signed into law by the president signifying hostilities. Use of military force through resolutions. So in Korea and Vietnam, it was kind of a bit of a off-the-cuff thing that the United States Congress passed a war powers resolution to allow the president to not declare war, but do war-like things, war-adjacent things. And since Vietnam, we have just let the president continually do more and more without asking Congress. This act was put into place as to kind of put a very formal process in how Congress, absent of a formal declaration of war, can sort of put barriers and borders around what the president can do without asking Congress. And so usually you've got these things called an AUMF, an authorization of use of military force, an AUMF. And we did an AUMF for Afghanistan in 2001. The purpose was to attack the targeted perpetrators of the 9/11 attacks, including Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. But after 9/11, we keep adding people to that list, right? Congress does. They say, hey, this authorization of use of military force in Afghanistan, we're going to add Iraq onto it. We're going to add, well, now Al-Qaeda is over in Syria and it's ISIS, so we're going to add ISIS to it. We never passed a new authorization of use of military force to say, hey, we, the Congress, will allow the president to, strike in these limited areas for this limited amount of time. They just amend the old thing. They just keep adding new stuff onto the lease. And so a war powers resolution, I believe, assuming that Donald Trump would actually follow it, that's always up in the air, but I think that at least barring that scenario, a war powers resolution would check Donald Trump on this. We're not going to get the war powers resolution because both the Democrats and Republicans in Congress support this. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, they knew about this action a while ago. Marco Rubio informed the Gang of Eight. It is a group within the U.S. government that is kind of always read into the highest levels of American foreign policy. And the Gang of Eight is the leaders of both parties in the House and Senate, and the chairs and ranking minority members of both the House the Senate Intelligence Committee and the House Select Committee on Intelligence. These people all knew that this is going to happen, and when Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna were trying to push their war powers resolution, they said, guys, we think that we can get more votes for this if we just waited until next week. This was last week. We can just wait until next week, and then we'll get more votes. It turns out that was an effort to not have the war powers resolution go through. They don't want their members to have to say, I put up my right hand and say I'm okay with endless war and burning all of our treasure. That was, George Bush did something that I respect, and that was that everybody had to go on the record about the Iraq War. We know that Hillary Clinton supported the Iraq War when she was in the Senate. She could not turn around in 2016 and say, well, actually, I just put out public statements saying I'm appalled that the process wasn't followed correctly and the president should have to make his case. She didn't have to say that. She had to say yes or no. She had to make a choice and put her political career on the line, and that's probably why Donald Trump wins in 2016, is because George Bush made Congress approve of what he was doing. And at the time in 2003, right, it was a very, very popular war. The Iraq War was something like 80% of the American people, both sides, they were on board with this war. But now, a decade later, we can go back and see who voted yes, who voted for my kids to go die in another sand war, and who were the brave people that stood up to the lobbyists, that stood up to the media, that stood up to all the pressure in Washington and actually said no. That is not what Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer want. It's not what John Thune and Mike Johnson want. They want this war to happen without they want to throw their hands off the steering wheel. They want the war to happen, and then they want the ability, if it goes well, to say, oh my God, we supported this. They want to go to their donors, in Northern Virginia and say, hey, actually, we supported this. You get to make money as we bomb people. And then when the citizens ask, they can say, well, I never supported this. How do you know that I supported this? I never voted for it. So, yeah, that's the main part. If it ever passes through Congress, you need to get a hearing in Congress. And they already tried to, put it up to a vote in Congress. And the White House just said, or not the White House, both parties in Congress did everything they possibly could to slow walk it and make sure it never happened. Because they're not worried about it passing. They know it's not going to pass because everybody in that house is bought and paid for. What they don't want is the PR nightmare of having voters call and say, why did you, vote to set billions of dollars on fire and kill my kid? That makes no sense. That's what they don't want. What else are we thinking about, guys? What else are we thinking about? Three concurrent viewers. You guys are the goats. You guys are the goats. You know that. It would be very telling. But unfortunately, I just don't think we're going to get it. I just don't think we're going to get it. You know what I mean? What else are you guys wondering about? Thank you for letting me know about the mic situation too. I will bump up the audio a little bit. I just don't want this to max. Mar-a-Lago shooter? You are just now telling me this for the first time. I have not seen anything on the matter. Let's say Mar-a-Lago. Oh, that is not. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Thank you. Mar-a-Lago shooter. From 5 days ago, Mr. S fires TJ4NE. I don't know what's going on here. Armed man shot and killed inside Mar-a-Lago perimeter. Secret Service says. Paywall. An armed man has been shot dead after entering the secure perimeter of U.S. The Secret Service man was carrying a shotgun and a fuel can was stopped with Secret Service. Mr. Trump's first comments. It was consequential. Got a lot of people gunning for me, don't I? Yeah, I really don't know what you mean by this. I really don't see an obvious connection between this and everything else that we've been talking about. But if you've got that connection drawn in your head, I am all ears. Please let me know. Anyway, that was the Gang of Eight. All of these guys are corrupt sellouts. No one is allowed into this position unless they are, in fact, compromised or for some other reason 100% wholly compliant with the deep state. So that's a fun one. The War Powers Resolution. kind of a nothing burger. It would be a good way to put some restrictions on the White House, but at the end of the day, the political system loves war. It is very pro-war, and these are the sort of bureaucratic, boring bureaucratic tools that they use to make sure that that is the norm. Hannibal Directive. This is goes to the point that Israel really it cares about. I think the government does care about the population in the same way that the U.S. government cares about our population. Would any government figure say, yes, I want my civilians to die? No, of course not. But when the real people in power need somebody to throw themselves on the altar, they will gladly volunteer up their own people, when it comes to making martyrs, when it comes to doing all that stuff. What else do we got here? That's a Hannibal Directive. These are the burnt cars from October 7th that could not have possibly been done with AK-47s and hand grenades. So, yeah, this is Israel killed a lot of its own people on October 7th, and that 1,200 number is not entirely honest. That is how many people died, but not how many people that Hamas killed. Give me some more stuff, guys. Come on. Mohammed Mossadegh, we know who he is. Prime Minister we cooed because he wasn't sufficiently pro-America. Didn't want to sell his country's oil to Western industrialists. This is Strait of Hormuz. This shit is locked down. Locked down. Guess we're going to keep rolling through X. Probably won't go a crazy amount more here, but we'll see about that. Any other questions that folks have? Please let me know. I'm in the way. Let me know, please. What will that lockdown mean? It will mean that global oil companies and shipping companies fear the prospect of Iran hijacking their ships, sinking their ships, and doing a whole host of other things in order to stop global shipping. It's the same sort of effect that would be desired from striking Dubai and from striking Bahrain and these other oil states that have American troops and bases stationed within them. The point is to try to disrupt business as usual. The point is to try to cause pain in the economic system, make the oil people, some of those same oil people are the ones advocating for this war, to make all of these different folks, the shipping industry, the oil industry, make all of them go to American leadership and Israeli leadership and say, hey guys, you're really hurting us here. We can't get our oil to market. We can't get it out of UAE and over to India. We can't get it over to China, any of these other buyers. The point is like when the Houthis shut down the Red Sea. It's to stop the flow of commerce so that people listen to your demands. And you say, I'm not going to open up the Strait of Hormuz again until, you guys have stopped raining fire and fury on us and trying to do regime change. But until that happens, we're going to shut down shipping. And so you guys are going to lose a lot of money. A lot of business deals are going to go through. You know what I mean? That's the point. And that lockdown doesn't mean that Iran is going to sink every ship that goes through there, but it means that these massively risk intolerant, oil companies and shipping companies, like they don't want to lose a bunch of oil to an Iranian missile. And so they would rather just have their ports, their ships sit at port, pay for, all of the time that they're just spending sitting in the dock, paying all of the sailors that weren't expecting to be gone that long to sit in their ships. Like the point is to cause pain for all of these companies that have pressure and effect and a seat at the table with American and Israeli and Western lawmakers to say like, hey guys, I know that you've got your old coup that you want going on, and that's fine. I'm like down with the program, but like we got to wrap it up, or maybe you guys gotta take a half win or something because I need my oil to go through. That's the point that they're trying to make. Got here late, but do we think people will continue to go unpunished for Epstein? Yeah. Oh, I think narratively, this is probably intentional. The fact that we're doing this right as someone mentioned to me earlier today, right as Hillary and Bill Clinton got off of testifying at Capitol Hill, that's when you're hearing that's when all of this pops off. We're not talking about this, seemingly what did Bill Clinton say? Let's see what Bill and Hillary Clinton said. Bill, Hillary, statements. Yeah, so basically he had the moment to blow the whistle and let everybody know what he knew. We know that, the Epstein class, the Epstein files, yes, are about, all sorts of, crimes against children and crimes against humanity, but you also see a lot of self-dealing. You see how these international politicians are giving insider information to Jeffrey Epstein, and then Jeffrey Epstein is spreading it to everybody else who's around him. They're doing insider dealings. They're telling each other how to get around these loopholes. That's why Prince Andrew just got indicted in England, is because as an economic minister for England during the 2008 financial crash, he was giving Epstein a bunch of insider information and selling him secrets of the British crown. And he's not doing that just because he loves Epstein. It's because there's a big old club that runs by a different set of rules. And, Bill Clinton really had the opportunity here. He's at the end of his life. He's not going back into politics. He could have blown the whistle on that whole club. And what he did here is say he saw nothing and did nothing. He saw Trump do nothing and saw Trump do nothing in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. And he saw Jeffrey Epstein do nothing. As far as he knew, he was just a swell guy. Ignore the fact that people, all kinds of people said, I first met Jeffrey Epstein, I thought he was a creep. You know what I mean? Just the moment you meet him, he gives you that sort of look. He's off-putting. He seems like a control freak, all of that stuff. There's no way that Bill Clinton goes through his decade, I guess, of knowing, less than a decade, of knowing and partying with Jeffrey Epstein and just, this is a whole side of him that he never showed me. No. Nobody believes that, and please don't believe this. So that's why this article here features Clinton saying things emasculating, such as, I would have cut off ties with Epstein and would have never flown on his plane if he had any inkling of what he was doing. I would have turned him in myself, Clinton said in his opening statement released to the public ahead of his testimony. That nobody with a functioning brain can believe that. And so this is kind of the cover story for us to not be able to go and look, oh my God, Bill and Hillary Clinton are telling us actually everything that we see is a lie. This is a very, very good smokescreen to make sure that it's not that there's a bombshell that comes out that will enter the public consciousness, but doesn't have the oxygen to grow into an open flame. The point here is to lie and, try to downplay the scheme to take Bill and Hillary Clinton off the chess table, if you will, but distract elsewhere and say, don't look at the chess table. Don't see what's missing. Go look at this other thing. I can see the motivation for Israel behind this, but what do you think it is for Trump? My bad if you already mentioned it. Also, not to mention that even if all the files were released unredacted, only what was recorded could be charged for. No investigation could fully uncover what happened 15 plus years ago. I think that we definitely have a lot of unredacted files, but what we also have is a couple decades of culture in the Department of Justice saying basically, don't investigate this guy. Maybe you get tapped on the shoulder and told to stop what you're doing, or maybe you just realize that your boss never investigated this guy. He seems to have a lot of connections with a lot of our assets, so I'm going to take a hint and stop digging where my nose don't belong. There's a lot of stuff in those files you see. I'm trying to come up with the exact example, but it's not going to come to mind, where victims, where, individuals that we know are prominently featured as sex criminals in the Epstein files, they'll say, were you ever asked by the Department of Justice about Jeffrey Epstein? And they say no. And so when the Department of Justice, or when Pam Bondi or Kash Patel come out and say, we have no incriminating evidence, that could be entirely truthful because the Department of Justice knowingly looked the other way. And so if there was never an investigation, we never collected anything incriminating, and so we can't charge them. Like, Kash Patel might be correct in that we don't have anything incriminating even in the full files because they never asked for anything incriminating. They never investigated. They never tried to, dig anything up. And so when they report back, like, lo and behold, the files aren't going to have any of the incriminating evidence that they never found, or that they never looked for. So what's the motivation behind it for Trump? I think it is... I'm gonna give you a theory that I've heard repeated in multiple places from multiple sources. I would not trust it wholeheartedly if it would only come from one of those sources, but now that I'm hearing it from such a variety of places, I'm going to repeat it here. I've heard that essentially Israel was threatening to use nukes on Iran. And you get this kind of foreign policy from Biden, from Trump, from all of these American politicians, yes, because they're bought and paid for, but there's also this threat behind the scenes. And you can see Jonathan Pollard, a former American CIA agent that sold nuclear secrets, or sold secrets to Israel, and then Israel sold those same secrets to the Soviet Union. He recently said that Israel should nuke the United States if they don't want to go along with us. So Israel does have nukes. And we could really hope that they wouldn't use those nukes unless it was like literally about to get nuked themselves. But you've got people like Jonathan Pollard that are embraced at the highest levels of the Likud government that's currently in power in Israel, saying, let's nuke America. This guy was born in America. This guy was born in Galveston, Texas. Like, there is a very real threat that Israel is not as restrained as we are with their nuclear arsenal. And they're basically saying, like, we are going to nuke Iran and we're going to nuke other people that we want, unless you want to step in and do the dirty work for us without causing nuclear war. And the Trump administration or the Biden administration, which is already filled with people who might not have ever heard of that being the case and have still been given every single political incentive throughout their entire professional life to just unquestioningly support Israel. They don't even need to know about the nuke thing, and they're still going to just follow the same protocol that's been programmed in their brains for their entire lives. But I have heard that the Department of Defense and our military establishment knows that Israel is going to act unilaterally in a way that will cause more problems for the U.S. than it would be if we just went in and toppled the regime ourselves. So that's a thought. But it's also that, Donald Trump got $100 million from Miriam Adelson in 2024 for his election. And that came with the promise of invading the West Bank. But Jared Kushner is, on the board of peace. He's a massive real estate developer that wants to, pick Gaza clean like a vulture on roadkill. Like Jared Kushner and people very, very, very connected to the Trump administration all have a massive financial stake in this. And, it baffles me that Donald Trump is at this point in his life and doesn't think, I don't have anything to lose. Why not be like the GOAT and ruin my future job prospects, ruin my reputation with these elite circles and everything because I'm about to die and I can't get reelected again, so it doesn't matter. I'd love it if that was his attitude, but it's not. I think he doesn't know how to measure success in life other than your status and your net worth. And he sees his status and net worth being inextricably tied to the financial interests that make up the Zionist lobby. And so he's going to do their agenda, for political reasons, because he thinks that, AIPAC just has such a strong pull in the Republican Party that if he went against them, he would lose his own status. You know what I mean? But then, I think more important than that, like him, Jared Kushner, Ivanka, Don Jr., Eric Trump, like they all really are in bed with Israel and the Israeli kind of deep state that they have. They're super intermixed, super intertwined. They have so many real estate deals in the Middle East, and all of them kind of rely on Palestine being gone and out of the question, and Iran being gone and out of the question, so that the only people in the region that are allowed to, be sovereign countries are ones that are, firmly in line with the Western, supply chain and state of affairs. So yeah, that's what I think's going on. I guess there was a good bit of engagement in this. I'm really glad that we had some folks that popped out and joined us this wonderful evening. I wish it was on different terms, but hey, I've got a bit more production value put into this one. If you can see this lovely little design I've got with the Instagram and the TikTok. I think I'm going to keep trying to invest in this sort of thing. And you know, I hope to be doing more lives. This is a lot of fun. And I think I'm, at a pretty persuasive mindset when I've got an audience like you guys. So thank you so much for joining. I think I'm going to end it here. I think I need to be a bit more intentional and maybe scheduled with this sort of thing so I can make sure that people know when I'm live and know how they can engage and hopefully we can all get more out of it like that if it's more regularly structured, better scheduled, all that sort of thing. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for joining me this evening. There's going to be developments. If you stay tuned to the Instagram, I'll probably be following along with those. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I can